We'll just take a few moments together here. So I invite you to take a deep inhale and exhale and settle into your body and into the space this morning with each other. If you'd like to take another deep inhale, exhale, return to space. Just give me one moment. I invite Lynn to do our first reading.
Game of Life, Chapter 1. Most people consider life a battle, but it is not a battle, it is a game. It is a game, however, which cannot be played successfully without the knowledge of spiritual law, and the Old and New Testaments give the rules of the game with wonderful clarity. Jesus Christ taught that it was a great game of giving and receiving. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. This means that whatever we send out in word or deed will return to us. What we give, we will receive. If we give hate, we will receive hate. If we give love, we will receive love. If we give criticism, we will receive criticism. If we lie, we will be lied to. If we cheat, we will be cheated. We are taught also that the imaging faculty plays a leading part in the game of life. Keep thy heart or imagination with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. This means that what we imagine sooner or later externalizes in our affairs. I know of a man who feared a certain disease. It was a very rare disease and difficult to get, but he pictured it and continually read about it until it manifested in his body, and he died the victim of distorted imagination. So we see, to play successfully the game of life, we must train the imaging faculty. A person with an imaging faculty trained to imagine only good brings into their life every righteous desire of his heart: health, wealth, love, friends, perfect self-expression, his highest ideals. The imagination has been called the scissors of the mind, and it is ever cutting day by day the pictures man sees there, and sooner or later we meet his own creations in his outer world. To train the imagination successfully, we must understand the workings of the mind. The Greeks said, know thyself. There are three departments of the mind: the subconscious, conscious, and superconscious. The subconscious is simply power without direction. It is like steam or electricity, and it does what it is directed to do. It has no power of induction. Whatever one feels deeply or images clearly is impressed upon the subconscious mind and carried out in minutest detail. For example, a woman I know, when a child, always made believe she was a widow. She dressed up in black clothes and wore a long black veil, and people thought she was very clever and amusing. She grew up and married a man with whom she was deeply in love. In a short time, he died, and she wore black and a sweeping veil for many years. The picture of herself as a widow was impressed upon the subconscious mind, and in due time worked itself out, regardless of the havoc created. The conscious mind has been called mortal or carnal mind. It is the human mind and sees life as it appears to be. It sees death, disaster, sickness, poverty, and limitation of every kind, and it impresses the subconscious. The superconscious mind is the God mind within each person and is the realm of perfect ideas. In it is the perfect pattern spoken of by Plato, the divine design, for there is a divine design for each person. There is a place that you are to fill and no one else can fill, something you are to do which no one else can do. There is a perfect picture of this in the superconscious mind. It usually flashes across the conscious as an unattainable ideal, something too good to be true. It is our true destiny or destination flashed to us from the infinite intelligence which is within ourselves. Many people, however, are in ignorance of their true destinies and are striving for things and situations which do not belong to them and would only bring failure and dissatisfaction if attained. For example, a woman came to me and asked me to speak the word that she would marry a certain man with whom she was very much in love. She called him AB. I replied that this would be a violation of spiritual law, but that I would speak the word for the right man, the divine selection, the man who belonged to her by divine right. I added, if AB is the right man, you can't lose him. And if he isn't, you will receive his equivalent. She saw AB frequently, but no headway was made in their friendship. One evening she called and said, do you know, for the last week, AB hasn't seemed so wonderful to me. I replied, maybe he is not the divine selection. Another man may be the right one. Soon after that, she met another man who fell in love with her at once and who said she was his ideal. In fact, he said all the things that she had always wished AB would say to her. She remarked it was quite uncanny. She soon returned his love and lost all interest in AB. This shows the law of substitution. A right idea was substituted for a wrong one. Therefore, there was no loss or sacrifice involved. Jesus Christ said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." And he said the kingdom was within man. The kingdom is the realm of right ideas, or the divine pattern. Jesus Christ taught that your words played a leading part in the game of life. By your words you are justified, and by your words you are condemned. Many people have brought disaster into their lives through idle words.
Thank you, Lynn. We will now move toward our litany of gratitude, and I invite you, if you'd like, to unmute yourselves and join me in saying, "We live in all things live in us." So I'll give you a few moments to do that. We live by the sun, we feel by the moon, we move by the stars. We live in all things live in us. We eat from the earth, we drink from the rain, we breathe of the air. We live in all things, and all things live in us. We call to each other, we listen to each other, our hearts deepen with love and compassion. We live in all things live in us. We depend on the trees and the animals. We depend on the earth. Our minds open with wisdom and insight. We live in all things. All things live in us. We dedicate our practice to others. We include all forms of life. We celebrate the joy of living and dying. We live in all things. All things. We are full of life. We are full of death. We are grateful for all beings and companions. I invite you to mute yourselves again. Take a moment for everyone to do that. And I invite Justice to do our next reading.
Okay, this is from the Tao Te Ching. Only simple and quiet words will ripen of themselves. For a whirlwind does not last a whole morning, nor does a sudden shower last a whole day. Who is the author? Heaven and earth? Even heaven and earth cannot make such violent things last long. How much truer is it of the rash endeavors of men? Hence, he who cultivates the Tao is one with the Tao. He who practices virtue is one with virtue. And he who courts after loss is one with loss. To be one with the Tao is to be a welcome accession to the Tao. To be one with virtue is to be a welcome accession to virtue. To be one with loss is to be a welcome accession to loss. Deficiency of faith on your part entails faithlessness on the part of others.
Thanks, Justice. Pass it over to Eric.
Hey everybody, gonna do something just a little bit different today. Sorry, let me get the camera. Instead of these normal journal prompts that we use, I thought it might be nice for us to try to start putting into practice this teaching from Florence Scovel-Shinn. We can talk a little bit more about her and why we chose this reading later, but what I'd like for us all to do is just take our 5 minutes here and write out as best we can this divine idea that we have for ourselves, to really try and touch in with what is your limitless life, our limitless lives, that life that we imagine that we think is too good to be true. And let's just put that down on paper, and then we can come together and kind of talk about that, and yeah, see what comes out of it. So just go ahead and set our 5-minute timer there.
All right, if you'd like to finish up your thoughts. We'll close out our service today, recognizing that we've come together with intentions of service to the land and all its inhabitants. It is in our hearts to go forth into the world with the collective consciousness. We encourage you to stay for continued fellowship and conversation around our readings today, which will be led by Eric. And for those unable to stay, we thank you for being with us. A few announcements. Just to reiterate what Courtney said at the beginning of service, we are a donation-based organization, church. So if you are able to, every dollar helps us move forward in our mission. And we do have a couple spaces left on our first small group sacrament service weekend. So if you are interested in learning more about that, you can email me at info@psanctuary.org. And this Wednesday, Katrine will be doing her mindfulness session at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So I'll try to send out a reminder as well, but if you want to make a note of that, we would love to see some faces there. So thank you all again for joining us, and I will stop our recording.